Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's SEJ webinar. I am here with Megan from CallRail and this awesome team from Einstein Industries who has been on an SEJ webinar. It's just been a couple years. So I want to take a minute and thank you, Megan, and thanks to the Einstein team for joining us today. How's everybody doing today?
Doing awesome. Thanks for having us. Yeah.
I love it. I love it when we have a big team here. So this team is going to be talking about ways to drive better PPC and higher quality leads. And I know as a marketer, that's what I'm always after. So I'm going to go through some really quick housekeeping, and then I'm going to turn it over. We're going to do a Q&A at the end of the presentation. So if you have questions for this team, anything inspiring during their presentation, leave it in the Q&A tab. If you see a question you like, you can give it a little thumbs up, and it lets us know that's important to you all out there. If you need closed captioning, it's the CC in the top right of your screen. Just give that a click. We will have some polls and some interactivity for you all today, so we'll love to see you engaging in the chat, which first and foremost, let us know where you're coming in from. I know this crew is a little bit all over the place. I'm in West Virginia, and before you leave today's call, if you can take our post-webinar survey, it takes just a couple seconds, and it lets us know how today's webinar went for you today. We're going to have some handouts. You'll get the presentation. You'll get the slides later along with the recording. It'll be in your inbox. But with that, I'm going to turn it over to this team. Megan, it's all yours. I'll see y'all at the Q&A.
Awesome. Thanks, Heather. All right. Nice to meet everyone. I'm Megan McLaughlin. I lead go-to-market solutions at CallRail. I'm going to give you a quick brief overview on CallRail. And so at CallRail, we're laser focused on making sure every marketing dollar results in new insights, paves the way for optimization, and gives you that opportunity to convert more leads into better customers. And so our platform is used by over 200,000 businesses, 7,000 marketing agencies. And our mission is simple. We want every business to be able to market with confidence. And so what we're really after is we want to make sure that you're able to attract more leads using full attribution data, so you know exactly what's working and what's not, convert those leads into loyal customers so that no opportunity slips through the cracks, and then optimize your marketing efforts so that you can drive some real revenue. So whether you're a marketer or an agency or even a small business owner, CallRail gives you those tools and data so that you can really build that winning strategy. And so with that, we're really excited about teaming up with the awesome folks over at Einstein to hear how they use our tools to create such successful strategies. So I'm going to give you like a little sneak peek into looking ahead on what's on our roadmap for 2025. We're doubling down on AI, probably no surprises there, and creating automations, right, to help agencies win more clients and capture more value from every lead. And so our mission, like I said, is to help you attract better leads, engage them faster and more effectively, and analyze what's working in your campaign so that you can convert those leads into loyal customers. And so we'll deliver tools this year that optimize for high quality leads so your campaigns can deliver better results, enable your data to work across platforms like sending conversion signals to ad platforms, helping, we're going to develop more ways to help businesses convert more leads even after hours, so no opportunity goes missed. And then we'll also automate that busy work so that you can focus on really true growth activities. And so that really leads us into why we're here today. All right, cool. We're going to dig into why even the best PPC campaigns can underperform. And spoiler alert, it's not usually the ad strategy alone. We'll show you how to bridge that gap with smarter lead intelligence, automation, and integrated tools. And you'll hear from Einstein, who is absolutely crushing it by using tools like ours to qualify leads in real time and follow up instantly, really bridging that gap from lead generation to lead conversion. Because really, what's the point of generating a bunch of leads if they don't convert? That's just a waste of money and really expensive. So by the end of the session, you'll end up hearing from Einstein on how they bring their ad strategy together, and I'll help connect that to what tools could be helped from CallRail or maybe a similar platform. All right, we'll start with a little bit of trivia, actually. So compared to web leads, we want to hear from you what you think. Compared to web leads, how much more likely are inbound phone calls to convert? I think Heather's going to pop up a little poll on the slide.
Yep, that should slide out for most people, and we'll give you guys just a couple seconds for those results to start coming in. And push these up. Here we go. There we go. Sometimes it's just a little slow today on a Thursday. So far, we've got over half of the people saying 15 to 20 times. Evening out a little bit. Megan, is this what you were expecting with these?
Well, actually, we have some pretty smart people in the audience because 10 to 15 times is actually the correct answer. And so that's pretty significant, right? If someone picks up the phone in this day and age, they want to talk to you. And so those tend to be the highest intent leads. So it's important to know how to convert them and optimize for more. So one thing that we've been talking about a lot with Einstein is like your biggest and your best tool is data and how you organize that data. And so I'm going to turn it over to Einstein to walk through a little bit about their business and how they do that.
All right, thanks, Megan. Hi, welcome everyone. I'm Mike Hawkins, CTO at Einstein Industries. Some people call me Hawk, so you might hear some people refer to me as Hawk. There's a lot of mics in the office, so today we're going to look at how Google's new AI's first search experience, kind of what's happening with AI in the industry is kind of rewriting the rules, and what we can do as marketers to prepare right now for that. And Einstein, we're celebrating 30 years in business this summer, and I've been here for 22. And the entire time we've been exclusively focused on elective healthcare and legal verticals. And what we try and do is we build performance marketing systems for elective healthcare and the plaintiff side legal practices, where a single call, single lead can mean $20,000 or $200,000 or more in lifetime value. So good enough lead generation is not good enough for our clients, and it's not good enough for us. And we've been working with CallRail for about 10 years now, and with their help, we've built a full loop performance system that tracks everything from the first touches all the way through the brand impressions, the clicks and the calls, to booked consults and revenue at the client's practices. We used to kind of get in the weeds in the middle with Google Analytics and website visits, and we've graduated past that into true ROI. And for 30 years, we've attempted to tie every single click and call to the booked revenue with our proprietary data-driven stacks over time, and those have evolved, but they've had gaps. And the reality is that we're finally there where we can track from the beginning of the customer journey all the way to the front office of our practice, and understand how that works, and then optimize that flow for when it does work. So we deal with high stakes verticals. Accountability matters. A lot of our clients, like they demand, excuse me, they demand excellence. And 2015, we filed a patent and were granted a patent for metadata CMS, metadata-driven CMS. And that really got us down the path of organizing our data, like Megan was talking about, how important the data is. So we're there now, where the dream is becoming reality, which is pretty amazing. And we try and measure success at the revenue stage, not at impressions or clicks or website visits. Yeah. So today's takeaways. Some of the stuff that I hope everybody can take away is like how Google's Gemini AI mode changes search behavior. So before we get into just the paid media stuff, I want to talk a little bit about that, and then why structured and unstructured data is the new SEO and /AEO AEO currency. So I'm going to put, actually, that's the wrong one. Let me close the poll back to the queue. I'm going to put a poll up, this one right here. I just want to get a feeling for like how many people are familiar with AEO. It's relatively new. There's so many acronyms that have come out over time. This is kind of interesting that a new one's come up. So we also want you to be able to take away a simple framework to prep your site, your content, your CRM, your CRM for AI matching before we get to paid media. And then where paid media fits into this new kind of landscape with AI search, and how our team turns data into ROI. So I'm seeing a lot of wait, what? Yeah. So there we go. Wait, what? So people are trying to say that SEO is dead, and it's not really dead. First of all, spoiler alert. But AEO is answer engine optimization. So everybody's trying to figure out how to get into the answer engine. And that started with snippets, and now with the AI summaries. And as we move forward, it's matching what the answer the user's trying to get with their query with something we're trying to promote. So answer engine optimization, it's kind of new, and we'll see how long that acronym lasts. And then we're going to get in, obviously, into where paid media fits. And so at this point, Google's still not dead. They've got 2 billion users daily. Query volume's increasing too, though. So you might have 2 billion, but the number of queries is going up, especially with Gen Z. They're issuing more queries every day, more than any other age group, and they expect more answers. And they're already showing that it's less about the funnel and it's more about a cycle and a circles of search and knowledge gathering before making a decision on buying or getting information on something like that. So when that evolves past just AI answers and it gets into Gemini's AI mode, which is coming out very soon, you're going to get a much more dramatic, dynamic experience of search. It's not going to be enter a keyword and here's some snippets and some organic and some paid. It's going to be an interactive, dynamic environment. Again, not so much of a funnel, but a circle or a cycle of querying until they find the match that they're intending to find. And, with every AI answer needs high quality signals. And so where we're going with that is that the new search reality, it's basically a live chat, and it's not 10 blue links and it's not snippets. A very dynamic reality. So the other thing that people are missing when they're talking about Google versus ChatGPT is that ChatGPT doesn't know as much as Google does. We know about the knowledge graph about businesses. They've shown that to us in search results. They don't show us the knowledge graph on us. Like, that's their private data that they incorporate. And Google knows a lot about you and me and everybody here. So that's a huge upside for them. They have the deepest knowledge graph on each user and way more people than we realize. So AI mode simply puts all of this into a chat window, into this cycle and circle instead of that funnel. And garbage in, garbage out has been something that's used in data a lot, but it's now existential. It's not just a buzzword. And your data foundations really help you create visibility. And one thing our owner and CEO, the founder of the company, Robert Silke, said is that the tsunami is coming because people aren't going to be prepared. Companies aren't prepared. They don't have their data in alignment. And if they don't, they're going to be drowning and trying to figure out how to organize their data. And we know that AI can only parse, and it can only trust, or it can only trust what it can parse. The answer is only going to be as good as the inputs. So we have to be really good at delivering those inputs. So schema is one way. Schema is not just to get snippets, but it's to convey signal and reduce noise. And rich unstructured data, like transcripts and these types of things, are also complementary to that as well. And clean inputs bring clear outcomes. And that's where the ROI is really going to live. And I'll put in another poll right now on how many people have enabled Google's AI mode. Because you can go in right now today, just search for Google AI mode and enable it as the beta feature, and it activates a tab in your Google search. It's pretty basic right now, but there's a lot more coming. And we've seen that we went to the Google Labs actually last month and got to take a look at it. And it's going to be pretty amazing. So I highly recommend everybody goes and use it right now. Not now, but after the webinar, of course. But give it a shot, and you kind of see what they're going to be doing. And Google personalizes and contextualizes AI mode search using information about the user. I've kind of gone over this part. They know more about us than we realize. Just scary, but it's the truth. And so we've got to broadcast equally rich results about our services, the people, the locations that we work with, and we got to close the gap of what they know about us and what the user is looking for. So one thing we've always talked about is that you can't improve unless you track where you're at. And David Tully, the Google lead Jen had, he said you can't optimize what you can't measure. So we need a structure that lets AI see what actually led to the revenue. So what led to the revenue, the whole process, and then feed that back into the system. And one of the things we use is CallRail's transcripts and their lead tags and their different new AI tools that we're going to go into as one of several inputs here. But the principle isn't just about CallRail or just about us. It's tool agnostic. It's that outcome data has to return back to the top. So as the process finishes, what was good, what was bad, how do you take the good and do that more? Pretty basic. And then now at this point, you can probably see why the loop matters. And coming up, the team is going to talk about how we align this loop with our client strategies, and then how to not waste money on pay-per-click paid media that isn't optimized and efficient. So yeah, you got to feed it back, you got to track it. And from intent to outcome, all in one loop, we as humans organize things. AI is really amplifying that stuff. And I think that the companies that systematize their data is going to be the ones that own the next decade of search visibility. And then I'll go ahead and hand it off to Megan here to get into lead performance.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Hawk. And I totally agree. I think data is one of your biggest assets. And if you don't have it, it can actually be one of your biggest downfalls to lead performance. So we actually end up seeing that there's two big leaks in a lot of paid search pipelines. And so the first is, as you try to attract and engage, if you don't know who your customers are or who they should be, and if your targeting is too broad, you end up spending money on attracting unqualified traffic, which is why getting data and using data effectively on your call campaigns is so important. And then the second is making absolutely sure that those leads follow a process that allows them to convert effectively. And so qualifying and prioritizing your best leads for speedy follow-up is absolutely essential. And so have no fear. Chip is here to, I didn't mean for that to rhyme, but show you exactly how to avoid that leaky funnel on the next slide.
Well, with that segue, how can I go wrong? Thanks, Megan. Yeah, my name is Chris Chipinelli. I've been with Einstein for over 18 years now. Naturally, it's no surprise a lot's changed in that time. The newly available data has really transformed my day-to-day operations. To fully appreciate what you'll hear today and some of the things that Hawk briefly scratched the surface on, we really need to look back. So think of a frog in boiling water. We may not realize how advanced and insightful this reporting really has become. We all want what's best for our clients, of course, but in order to demonstrate that the campaigns we are enacting are working well, we got to show return on investment. I remember our first reporting tools, very first, for directory positions. They were limited to simply impressions and clicks. Imagine that's very difficult for us to draw a correlation from our services to the client's bottom line. If there was ever a feeling the campaign wasn't really working, with limited visibility, I mean, sometimes the best we can say is, look, the data looks strong on our end. From what I can control and what I can see, we should be having success. So, maybe you're not seeing it on your bottom line. Could we have an issue after we drop leads off at your doorstep? Now, how do you think those conversations went? and look, that's not to point blame at all, but you can't improve what you're not measuring, as people said earlier. Over time, reporting has certainly improved with GA4, but we're still left to make educated assumptions based on the available data. I can always point to strong KPIs, but while an increase in total visits and time on page, surely that's positive, it doesn't necessarily equate to quality leads. Correlation doesn't equal causation. Pipeline performance and recognized revenue occurs further down funnel. With our client base, they're experts in their respective fields, for sure. However, not all of their business infrastructures are necessarily fully dialed in. So discussions always eventually come back to the topic of conversion. What's happening with your front desk? How does your intake team handle, this common objection? What do you think is being said? What do you want to be said? What actually is being said? there'd be a reluctance to inquiries like this and suggestions. I'd say it was common for us to run into a bit of a brick wall at times. Look, my team is great. Don't worry about them. Let's focus on you. Conversations like this, they can put us more at odds than with one another as teammates. But we need to be teammates. All right. And that's because with high stakes verticals, we're the lacking data. This comes back, think of back when we had basic call tracking, as Hawk mentioned that earlier. With high stake verticals, we simply need more data. Now I know there's a lot of people in attendance on this webinar, but for those of you, that are in e-commerce or, do have a focus on brand awareness campaigns, some of this may not necessarily be as applicable to you. But the sensitive verticals that we deal in can have much longer conversion timelines. When dealing with YAML or your money in your life campaigns, Google is even allowing us to implement retargeting campaigns. So the focus on the client experience really matters. Think of how we handle intake, conversion, and follow-up. It's crucial. It was alluded to earlier, but I always say data is the new commodity. With more information, I can provide more guidance and ultimately better consulting. I won't do a poll or anything like that, but either show of hands or in the chat. Anyone here watch the recent MotoGP? The Monaco GP. MotoGP is like motorcycles as well. Well, one of our later speakers actually attended in person. Maybe they'll share it with you. The race in Monaco, it's historic, right? The race itself a bit boring, if you ask me. Hey, I digress. Let's just talk about the data, right? Think back to the 80s. Data was limited to lap times and gaps to the next driver. So you'd get a message, hey, you're 4 seconds behind, pick up the pace. Okay, great. How do I do that? Do I just drive faster? No. Got it. And that's not very helpful at all. Today, we have real-time telemetry, and it's on our TV screens. Obviously, we've got a lot more data, but it's what you do with the data. That's really what makes a difference. Drivers can be coached on specific areas for improvement and given action steps for how to improve their lap times. Look, brake deeper into turn 4, carry more speed through the chicane. You're not getting on the throttle fast enough exiting 7, right? These are action items that can really allow the driver to get faster. So now let's take that F1 evolution and let's apply it to our day-to-day. With the high stakes verticals I mentioned, we require that better data. And today we have access to crucial data, and we utilize CallRail for that. Because of what is now provided, the conversation is changing. Weak links in the chain now become teaching opportunities. These types of discussions allow me to be a much better consultant to the practice. Why? Well, they're seeing, our actions lead directly to their bottom line improving. ROI is paramount. When they see a direct correlation to an increase in revenue, then my value to the client also increases. That's why we don't stop at simply reporting on the number of phone calls. Instead, we go a step further. We listen to the calls. We utilize onboard AI. We qualify the calls. We add tags. We separate existing clients from brand new first contact sessions. We can identify the intake team's strengths and use real examples to teach the rest of the staff across the board. So imagine another staffer may be struggling. We have actual action steps like the drivers got in the car and how they can improve. And now these conversions can be without potential negative emotion. And that's big because the data is there. The examples are there. And the AI is providing unbiased recommendations. It's a game changer. It's really an imperative shift. I mean, with the longer sales cycles, not all of our seeds are ready to harvest. We need to be able to farm the land. And CallRail's data helps us create action plans for follow-up. So let me head back to that previous slide. There it is with our data blind spot. Without the data, you're making changes to your paid campaigns blindly, right? But now, I can see the light with the data. So now I'm going to pass it over to Delana. She's going to discuss how visibility to this data helps supercharge your paid campaign strategies.
Thanks, Chris. Well, hello, everyone. I'm Delana Ricasa. I'm the Director of Paid Media at Einstein Industries, and I've been deep in the weeds of paid media for just about over 2 decades, but it really doesn't take a seasoned paid media specialist to know like how quickly things can shift, especially when you're trying to chase meaningful results that go just beyond the click. So let's get into how implementing a qualification system can truly level up your paid strategy and execution. So at the heart of it, it's really about getting better leads and making sure every dollar you spend actually counts. So with this system in place, you're essentially cleaning up your lead stream so you only spend time on high value leads. So I'm talking about scrubbing out spam and irrelevant queries. So essentially it helps identify and get rid of all that noise. Then from that scrubbing process, you can determine who actually matters and then prioritize those leads. So with features like lead scoring, you can really zero in on the people actually likely to convert. And that just means what? Better ROI, you get rid of those blind spots like Chris mentioned, and smarter decisions about where to put those ad dollars. And then this is where it gets like really cool is within Google Ads, like every conversion kind of looks the same, but with post-click and even post-conversion data, you can tell Google like, hey, this wasn't a conversion, but this was a really good quality conversion. So please go get me more like this. And kind of circling back to the F1 reference that Chris made, this approach is kind of like an F1 race, how it's conducted. Every lap feedbacks crucial data back to the engineers who then take those learnings, tweak the race strategy in real time. So that's exactly what we're doing here. We're feeding back smarter data to inform our next moves with all the blinders removed. So that feedback loop really is a game changer, and where I think most modern media strategists, have a gap in their approach to paid media. And it's actually something that Google wants because it helps their algorithm optimize ad delivery. And it's something that we should want too, because in the end, it helps improve our targeting and our outcomes. So kind of breaking down the process step by step. So let's talk about the first part of lead acquisition. It's really the scrubbing aspect. So by scrubbing leads at the get-go, we can then spend time on real valuable leads. So at Einstein, we treat this kind of like our built-in like spam filter for campaigns. We're not just looking at surface level conversions from Google. We're definitely digging a bit deeper. We can see which campaigns and even which keywords are generating spammy leads, or on the other hand, high value leads, and then leverage that information into our optimization decisions. So the huge benefit here is being able to identify those low value leads that still might look great in platform, but don't actually help the bottom line. So once we scrub all of that out, we're left with clean, reliable data to then optimize with. And then all of this really helps us spend smarter, get better results, and actually trust the numbers we're seeing when making campaign decisions. And again, I think this is the evolution of where paid media strategists need to be, that, we're at the mercy of in-platform data. And it doesn't matter if you're reporting out of Google ads, Meta ads, TikTok ads, Snapchat ads. Everyone kind of likes to make their numbers look good. With this qualification process in place, you're actually able to get that reliable data, be able to trust it, and make actions off of it. And then after the scrubbing, this is where we kind of really start dialing in, and that's qualifying the leads so that we can prioritize them essentially. So as mentioned earlier, we know not all conversions are created equal. Like, sure, Google gives you conversion value bidding, but let's be honest, it treats every conversion of a certain type the same way. So all forms are created equal. All phone calls are created equal. But that's really just not how modern real life lead qualifying works today. At Einstein, we're able to prioritize the most valuable leads. So we can rank leads by potential to convert and act on those first. So based on where those types of leads came from, we can then turn that insight into smarter strategy and optimizations and where to push and pull budget from. So again, we're not just optimizing for clicks. Today, all the value, bounce rate, time on site, that does not equate to lead quality per se. So we have to look beyond the click, and we're optimizing for what happens after that. So that is actually where the real value does live. So with all of this now, let's talk about targeting, like real narrowed in, honed in targeting, not just guessing and throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what's sticking. But when it comes to PPC, we just can't live in a world where clicks and impressions are the end all be all. At Einstein, we go beyond that. Again, we're building campaigns around what actually happens after the click. Because here's the thing, in platform bidding strategies, let's say, for example, maximize conversions in Google Ads, that often pushes for quantity over quality. But we flip that with the focus on lead qualification. We therefore focus on high value KPIs, and that helps you cut that wasted spend and boost your chances of converting real high leads, real high value leads, and what leads to the ROI on the back end. And the real magic, all of that post-click data can be fed directly back into Google Ads. Stuff like CRM updates, call outcomes, and even offline activity, that can all go back into Google via their data manager. And this drives a smarter bidding engine for Google and ultimately for you, because you'll get stronger ROI. So I'm really curious, with you guys, that are utilizing Google Ads as a platform, have you leveraged Google Ads data before, or Google Ads data manager before? Chris did bring up a point about, customer match or targeting being not an option for a lot of verticals that might be in a sensitive area, but that is separate from the data manager. So this is where things really get to be supercharged. It's not just the qualifying process alone, it's completing that loop. Oh, this is amazing. This is great to see. A lot of you are leveraging it. There is some of you that are, curious about what it is. And just kind of as a reminder, and some additional clarity. So Google Ads Data Manager, it's pretty much a function that allows for data import. It's a single point and click UI that lets you bring your first party customer data from outside of Google into it. Again, the advantage here really is to, inform their algorithm of what matters most to you based on your post-click information. So based on all the activity that happens off of Google, like phone calls, lead qualification, did they turn into an actual, did we convert that lead? So all of this information gets fed back into Google. And again, you're raising your hand saying, hey, go get me more like this. All right. And kind of rounding all of this out. So, for advertisers, it's no secret. Google rewards those who adopt its newest features and provide meaningful data. So by aligning our campaigns structures with lead quality and syncing actual outcome data, we're essentially helping Google help us. So the more context and insight we feed into the system, the smarter and faster it can optimize. We can then play to Google's strengths. It tends to return the favor when we do that with more efficiency and performance and higher quality outcomes. So now that we've kind of seen how all this aligns with Google systems and, can help drive smarter outcomes, I think we'll go through where all those signals essentially come together and how visibility into lead behavior helps us make even better decisions. So with that, I will turn over to my colleague, Kyle.
Awesome. Thank you, Delana. As mentioned, I think Delana, a big point there is how do we get our data set ready for Google's data manager? And, when it comes to a dashboard, I'm sure a lot of agencies are facing a very similar goal. How do we bring up all the signals for all the campaigns that we're running? In Einstein's lead dashboard, we're rolling up all the signals at a higher level that really help us get closer to reporting what matters most. And as mentioned throughout this call, that's ultimately return on investment. By leveraging things like a structured conversation logging, activity summaries, response triggers, and even implementing lead scoring, we've got one feedback cycle that's more seamless, where we can portray the before, the during, and the after of that lead cycle. I think one thing that really benefits us is the interface and the dashboard that we log into at Einstein is the same dashboard that we give our clients to. So even in preparing for conversations with our clients, we're really transparent with the data set that we're observing. But what it also allows us to do is provide a really quick high-level overview of the lead quality and analysis of the activity when we're talking with our clients. I think kind of pushing this home, though, and getting some of that visibility gap that Chip had touched on even further, it gets our clients comfortable with the interface. So when we're having conversations with our clients, we're able to dive a little bit deeper into actually coaching them, talking about their feedback on the leads, providing us with an actual additional data layer in the form of a pulse check on, whether it's providing a clarity signal or maybe an improvement signal on what we're actually reporting on. Again, with all of that being geared towards the bottom line of the income statement, which is AKA revenue. When our clients are able to add that context of quality, value, and even give us their feedback, as Chip mentioned, it requires being on the same team. So instead of it being, kind of rubbing against each other's shoulders and kind of, what did you do for me? I think it's a much more constructive partnership where it's, a tying in of what we're seeing, what they're seeing, observations from both ends, and, how we can ultimately work together for the ultimate improvement. And, as you can see, this really isn't a problem with traffic. It's a problem that really affects all agencies. It's a gap in the visibility and ultimately the accountability. I think as a marketing agency, we feel it's our responsibility to actually generate quality leads. And this is something that, I think Delana, Chris, Megan, everyone really in this call has touched on. We don't focus on just the quantity of leads because it's not a true picture or true value of the full picture. If we're talking about only quality leads, that's what really enables a deeper discussion with clients, because that gets us to our desired visibility and accountability for those leads that matter most. Yes, client, some of your leads are going to be from referrals. Some will be from organic traffic. Some will even be from paid traffic. But more than likely, those leads will have interacted with you on all of these different venues across a really wide spectrum of time. We're really past the conversation of just attribution being the main metric and talking about, again, trying not to waste dollars by having more visibility of where those dollars are being most effective. So I think really, where do you start? And, again, big thing here is step one is really getting a clean data set by qualifying your leads. I think the key to that good data set is diving in, even if you're starting from a very manual process, and really sorting out, what's the cream of the crop and what's kind of the stuff that maybe is a little bit lower value or just doesn't need to be top of the mind today. You can have your own definition based off of your KPIs of what that quality metric really is. For us at Einstein, it's really an analysis of the services offered by our client, paired with the sentiment of the call, the duration of the call, and a number of other metrics that really allow us to flag, the actual quality or lead score even of just how hot that lead is. I think as a benefit to our clients, ultimately that lets us, kind of allow the cream to rise to the top. So if we're, speaking with our clients, we want to make sure that if they are tight on time, the ones that they need to address the soonest and in the most, impressive fashion are really those ones that are the highest quality. So yes, spoiler, we use CallRail for a lot of this. I'm going to pass it back to Megan to kind of talk about some of the cool tools that CallRail's offering to kind of dive into that.
Awesome. Thanks, Kyle. All right. Now that you kind of understand how to make sure you're designing strategies that convert every lead, I just want to give you a look behind the curtain on what tools Einstein's actually using to do this. And so first, there's call tracking. There's plenty of call tracking tools out there for sure. CallRail gives you a pretty rich data. As speaking to our own product, it's a foundational tool that assigns unique phone numbers to each marketing channel. This way you can see exactly what campaigns are driving your calls, and this helps remove those blind spots that Chip mentioned. Then there's conversation intelligence, or premium conversation intelligence, I should say, where the AI-powered data really shines. with the features like instantly qualifying calls, there's no more guesswork, and then you can get into the ability to prioritize those valuable leads, like I think both actually Kyle and Lana mentioned. And then the last, or the number 3 would be Convert Assist. This is kind of like having an AI powered coach that gives you feedback. And sometimes it's good to just have a third party there to kind of give that feedback to your clients, but also brings you the last mile by giving you tools like, follow up emails that are pre-written and stuff like that based on the actual call. So very contextually relevant stuff. And then finally, Voice Assist, which is our newest product and it's in beta currently. Voice Assist allows you to never miss a lead with an AI assistant that answers, captures, and qualifies your leads for you 24/7, which ends up having a lot of upside for your PPC strategy. And so on that note, this I think might be our last trivia of the day. So hope you guys are ready.
It's a big one.
Yeah, big one.
So what percentage of calls do you think are typically missed or go unanswered each month? And so this is actually based on our proprietary data, which is interesting. Do I have to?
Nope. It's coming up. Hold on one second. There we go. Small technical glitch, but it looks like at least over 50% are saying 28%.
Wow. Either you guys have seen some of our marketing in the past or again, are just really smart. But missed calls, they don't have to lead to finger pointing, but they often can. And Kyle's going to talk a little bit more about how you can leverage AI to make sure that you're no longer missing those calls. And so I'll pass it back over there.
Awesome. Thank you, Megan. I just saw the chat too that I look like a Bob Odenkirk version. Never heard that one before, but I'll take it. Better Call Saul's a great show. So as mentioned by Megan, some of the new cool tools from CallRail are things that Einstein has been very happily able to, through our relationship, test and even start implementing for some of the practices we work with. I think this is where we've really started to leverage AI at a different level. By offering something like a scheduling assistant to our clients, it really kind of takes things to again another level. On its most obvious benefit, really we're able to mitigate missed phone calls. An AI agent picks up the phone call. Those phone calls would have just gone missed or were overflowed, and staff is inundated with calls, whatever the reason. The dashboard captures that lead, kind of makes sense of the outcome, tags the important information, and logs it. If we take that one step further, we can also handle more calls at all hours of the day, which means we can run ads longer. So if your staff's at home in bed at 10 o'clock at night, as they should be, your ads are live. You have an AI assistant who's able to capture the phone calls and capture that lead. One step even further, in a way that we've found success with kind of implementing this strategy and the voice assistant as a whole, is allowing your staff to really focus on the patient relationship and let the voice assistant handle the lead generation. So what I mean by that is, implementing something like a call flow where either the caller self-identified as a new patient or based off of signals, we can say that they're a new first-time caller. The voice assistant will handle that phone call, generates the lead in the dashboard, tags the important information. If the caller has identified as an existing patient, or based off of metrics we're seeing is, truly a existing patient, we can let that call go directly to the staff. It's likely that existing patient is going to ask more technical questions about their treatment plan or their payment schedule or something like that. So let that kind of patient-focused conversation go to your team, and then let the lead captured be handled by the voice assistant. In either case, the main thing here is to trigger the lead capture. So I think when we're talking about scalability of the scheduling assistant, we focus really on the main things. Main goal of each call being flag the who, the when, the what, tag the outcome, bring it into the dashboard, bring it into a seamless area to have, again, a data feedback loop. Now that you've freed up your team, you can implement an automated process for follow-up, whether that's email, text, phone call, etc. You're very quickly gathering that initial data set and then freeing up the ability for some of that added context later that we touched on earlier even if that means actually scheduling the call on a calendar. But I think the big thing here is where we're starting to see, AI move from being just a tool to an actual teammate. And what I mean by that is, it's imperative that, your lead strategy is leveraging AI in a way that it has to be coachable. Just like hiring a new employee to your staff, if you're bringing in an AI assistant, your model has to be, something that can be constantly improved upon. We work with a lot of clients who, like Chip mentioned, they don't have a big business structure, right? They don't have, a technically trained sales staff. By implementing something like an AI assistant, we can, keep that in mind and unlock kind of a sales assistant in the business. I think what's also really helpful is another thing that Chip pointed out was that there's no bias in the feedback. So if a AI agent is handling a phone call, there's no room for opinion on whether Suzanne handled that call really well, could have said something else, could have done something differently. But what it does allow us to do is provide that feedback to the AI agent and then quickly implement that feedback. So as we're implementing feedback, we're also analyzing it and seeing if that ultimately gets to the result that we need it to. I think one of the things that we've done at Einstein that was kind of really helped build out that agent experience is we informed all of our agents based off of the existing content on all of our clients' websites, and then also based off the transcripts of all the historical phone calls. So if your website lists your hours or your years of experience, address, even costs, the AI agent is able to handle those types of more technical specific questions. So it's, definitely further closer to, a human interaction, if you will. But yeah, to pass it back to Megan, she's going to go touch on some of Carl's findings with implementing voice assistant so far on their end. And I'll let her take it from here.
Awesome. All right, so I'm going to kind of bring this back to PPC. And I think often at first glance, one might think that an AI voice assistant might not have such a massive impact on your PPC strategy, but it really does end up being a secret weapon. So because voice assist or any type of AI voice agent can capture every lead 24/7, you're effectively lowering your cost per lead and you're opening yourself up to like non-prime time hours so that you can then expand your reach into there as well. So most voice AI agents can do this, but one thing that sets us a little bit apart is that we can also answer those calls faster. And so we have a lot of control because we have these things called call flows in our platform. And if you can answer those calls faster, then you can rank higher on your local service ads. And then last, it can score all of your leads for you. And then I think we all know how important, we've gone over it multiple times in this webinar, on how important lead qualification is and how important getting that into Google is. And so you know which ones are high value, which ones you should follow up with first. And then you can then optimize based on that to really hone in on your segmentation strategy. And so we do think it kind of comes full circle in that respect, in that, voices can be a leak, or any type of AI voice agent can be like that final plug in a leaky funnel, really rounding out your optimized paid ad strategy. So, all right, quick plug here for CallRail. If you're interested in recreating some of Einstein's most successful strategies, I recommend you check out a couple of our products. We have a 14-day free trial with no credit card required. And then I think that pretty much wraps us up, unless there's any final words from the Einstein folks. And
yeah, if anybody knows any cosmetic dentists or LASIK surgeons that need marketing services, we're always there for them. So there's our plug. Is
nice.
If you know anybody, send them our way. We'll take care of them.
And I can attest, they do a great job. They're very impressed.
Thanks.
I think we have like 10 minutes left if we want to start opening it up for Q&A or anything like that.
We do. So thank you all. That was great. Lots of very good information. So let's get to it, because we do have a few good questions. All right. So Kurt's got a good question. Sorry. How do you technically load back in the best call leads into Google so it focuses on quality and not just duration? And
Delana, you're muted.
Sorry about that. No, that's a great question. So this is the information again within Google. All conversions are created equal, right? You have to implement a system to identify which conversions are of quality. So the way you do that, it's a little bit technical. And again, it's integrated through their data management system, but it kind of involves like uploading or syncing through API or unique click IDs. So you have to kind of tie back that conversion or that lead or that person with a particular click ID in Google. And then Google will kind of tag that event as like, hey, this is what, the end user wants. Let's go find more of that. It's more or less on the technical back end, but usually involves matching it that conversion to a specific click ID and then feeding that back into the Google system.
Thanks for that, Delana. All right. So, a question from David. What is one essential tool like SEMrush recommended for Google Ads? So, what else can we use?
I think you need a tool that brings it all together. Like Chris had mentioned GA4, and yes, that's an imperative piece of the mix, but I find that personally, I very rarely log into GA4 to look at some of the metrics because they don't ultimately show me what, gets me to a return on investment or revenue. So I think whatever you can do to get a closer pulse on the quality of the leads and the rate of the quality leads and, thus the quality KPIs and however you can roll that up is really what the answer is here.
And I think they also...
I agree. Yeah, tools like SEMrush, there's a million of them, but I do think it can distract us from the goal. Use those as a litmus test to give us indications of campaign health. From there, I mainly focus on the conversion. So I think some of these, you can get wrapped up in the noise, and I think you got to be careful not to be distracted.
And I think it also depends on like what information you're trying to find, right? Are you trying to, tap into competitor space? Are you interested in search volume? Are you interested in the level of competition? Are you interested in, search trends over time? So I think once you really like kind of hone in on like what it is you're looking for, then that can kind of like kick off your journey into finding the right tool.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great point, Delana, because like that's where I think we find ourselves as an agency is really bringing all the signals from all the tools together. Yes, we use GA4, SEMrush, Search Console, and a few other third-party tools, but it's all about the visibility of like what's the intent of each tool and what value does that provide.
Great points. Let's see. Richard asks, will we have Google ad clicks in overview results? And if so, do you know how they'll be counted?
I'm wondering if we can elaborate on that one. Will we have Google ad clicks in overview results? I wonder.
Is this talking about AI summary?
AI. I'm sorry. Yeah, I assume he's talking about AI.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's no way that Google's not going to put more ads in their AI, experience. Like Google is built on advertising dollars, and it's been there forever. And anytime that, Google's going to die because of whatever new existential threat to them, no, they've got the data that's the gold that they're going to place ads on top of all the time. How will they be counted? How does that change, like between the AI mode search now and where that's going to go? And do they have a new system to report on that? I mean, I imagine there's going to be a bridge and a transition to something that's a little bit different than we have now. But I think that's already, they're counting impressions and clicks and the same things as ever. It's just in a different place and a different interface.
Yeah. I think it's important to point out too, I always say Google's really good at getting adoption and then implementing ads. But I think that's where with the involvement of things like PMAX that Google's starting to focus on, that's where you're really going to see this all go to a whole nother level is, the total mix of all the venues and all the things kind of coming together.
Yep.
Right. So you mentioned PMAX, so let's go over there. So AR has a question. How do we optimize the PMAX ads via maps as we're still getting an average if one irrelevant call per day despite over 1,000 or hundreds of negative keywords?
So PMAX is one of those campaign types that is a little bit tricky because it's a little bit of a black box because of how it's set up. Google removes a lot of the control that advertisers are used to versus, let's say, a traditional search campaign. So like really in our experience, where, you know, how you want to optimize, especially for PMAX, is you kind of have to get a little bit granular and create multiple PMAX campaigns almost by like asset group, and really leverage UTM parameters. And then, you know, tying it back to our process in lead qualification is then you can see which asset groups in PMAX are essentially not yielding any leads, if not like aren't yielding quality leads, if not any leads at all. And then maybe essentially PMAX just might not be the correct campaign type for you. Maybe you revert back to traditional search or testing something out like DSA's dynamic search ads. So again, like PMAX is one of those things where Google's like, trust us, we know what's best for you. But because of that black box, we can't put a lot of control or levers or parameters on it. And then I think finally, with just not layering in or negating having a keyword lists, but also like maybe you layer in audience signals or location exclusions. But yeah, that's the hard part. Like PMAX works great. I know for e-commerce and retail, sometimes it doesn't work too well for other type conversion events. But yeah, I would suggest breaking it out a little bit more. And if it still doesn't yield results, perhaps try another campaign type.
Great advice.
Sure.
So we'll try to do one, maybe two more questions. Jason's wondering, what are the ramifications of sharing that data with Google? So when you guys talked about, like, you know, either their in-store data, if you have a privacy policy and your T&Cs state that you don't share that data with third parties.
I mean, I will say first and foremost, anything said here is not legal advice and should not be taken as legal advice. But I will say, you know, I do think that your T's and C's and your privacy policy do absolutely need to align with what you are doing. Google, you know, you can ingest, you know, PII, but also there's a way to anonymize that. And that is a way around doing that is through Google's click IDs. So I think, you know, if you guys do go down this route, it's probably that best that you meet internally with your counsel and make sure that your T&Cs either have like not an exception, but if, you know, this client or this business wants to take advantage of Google Ad Data Manager, that you will have to share it with a third party, which third party being Google. And I just ultimately transparency is key when it comes to this stuff, especially with data and privacy policies. So
Yeah, if you want to optimize for that,
transparent.
yeah, if you want to optimize for this and like really do it, you have to amend your privacy policy then. Like, end of story.
Exactly. All right, we're going to take one more question. Oh, David got two questions today. Great. Thanks, David. He wants to know, is CallRail HIPAA compliant?
We do offer HIPAA supported plans. And so with that, you get like a special set of features and redaction and all that good stuff. And so short answer, yes, but not out of the box. And so there's a different plan that you have to get onto, and the rep can kind of lead you through that process.
Perfect. Well, that puts us about at the end of our time. So I'm going to make everybody a little bigger so the audience out there can see you all. So with that, you know, we've got a lot of people here. Typically, my last question of the webinar is tell the people where to find you. So Megan, let's start with you. Whether it's you or whether it's CallRail, where can they find you?
Yeah, pretty easy. Callrail.com. It's where you can find more about our products. And then always open to connecting on LinkedIn if you're interested in chatting more.
Yeah, and for us, it's EinsteinIndustries.com. So I just put it in the chat, but yeah, EinsteinIndustries.com. And we give an overview of our systems and kind of what we do and why we're doing what we do. And our commitment to excellence, as our founder always says, which we do with our partners in everything we do. So thank you, everybody.
I love it. I love it. Great. Well, for everyone who is out there with us, we're going to leave you with a short survey with the team here, Megan and the Einstein team. Thank you so much for joining us. Maria, yes, you're going to get that recording, so we'll send that out later. I hope everybody has a great rest of your day. We'll see you on the next webinar. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.